Half of this week's Chumash speaks about the kosher animals and non-kosher animals, kosher food and non-kosher food, which a person is allowed to eat and what a person is not allowed to eat. So I'd like to speak today about a little bit about the meaning of Kashrus. Although I think last year in the Sheikh Abad I did speak on this topic, but here in Beisrivke, the seminary, I didn't speak for quite a while, so I don't think there's a tape available on this. And also, I'll elaborate on this more than there, we just had made very briefly. So I'll elaborate on this a little bit more. In this week's Chumash, the passage Yeshua speaks about the kosher animals, which one is allowed to eat, the animals and fowl, fish, and the non-kosher. And then the Torah expresses itself, al teshaktes nafshesechem. Simply we translate, a person should not eat non-kosher food, do not abominate, do not defile your soul. In the Zohar it says, teshaktsu comes from the word sheketz. That a person, sheketz means this creeping, crawling insects in the ground. You are achmon letzlan. A person, when he eats non-kosher food, his neshama descends to such a level that he becomes on the same madrega, the same level, as all this creeping. At least if it's an animal, it's bad enough. But can you imagine like these little worms which creep, crawl, the dust? So the Zohar said that's why the Torah expresses itself in the terms of the shakts, like shekets. It means this crawling, swarming, creeping insects and worms. A person, the Shomer Rahman becomes on the same level spiritually. A person has the same spiritual understanding and feeling for anything godliness, for anything holy, for anything refined, just like on the same level descends, it degenerates, it becomes on the same level as these teshekets, all these creeping little things. The Torah also says we should not do not defile, do not make impure, tome our nefesh. So the Gemara says in Yuma, in a number of other places, the tamtem also means bitmeisem, bitmeisem, do not defile, do not make impure, tome, your soul by eating non-kosher food. So Torah says, as nitamtem, your soul becomes like timtum. Timtum aleph means that the soul, the heart becomes so dull that nothing spiritual, nothing inspiring, nothing of a higher, nobler level will penetrate. The heart becomes penetrating to the heart, in one's heart. The heart becomes like a rock, like a stone, just like you can pour water onto a rock. But the water just simply does not enter, doesn't penetrate. Sometimes our neshamas, our heart, are so dull, becomes really like a stone. A person can see miracles. A person can see godliness. A person can see something which would be truly for somebody else if his heart would be a heart of flesh, not a heart of rock. You become very much inspired, aroused, stimulated, and yet this neshama becomes by a person, his heart becomes so dull, so hard, that nothing can enter. And this is the true explanation. We see sometimes we have some discussions, debates with somebody about Torah mitzvahs, and we can give all kind of logical explanations and rational interpretations, which the person should become. It should somehow register with the person. A person should just absorb something, and yet we speak with a person about Shabbos, about God, about Torah mitzvahs, about the neshama, about the destiny of man, the purpose of existence, and so on. And we can present the most logical, most rational explanations, and you can see you speak like to a rock, a mountain. This person is completely insensitive, nothing absorbs. What's the reason? If you tell this person about money, immediately you can see that it makes sense to him, and he'll do it. You tell him, do this and this job, or go into this and this business, and it makes sense to him, he'll do it. Here you bring the most rational, those most logical, most reasonable explanations about the proofs for existence of God. Why is it necessary you should keep Shabbos? Why is it necessary you should eat kosher? And yet you can see with this person, you can speak and speak and speak, and just you left him just like you began. Nothing entered into his mind. He doesn't disprove you. He has nothing what to say against you. He accepts logically, but into his heart nothing enters. What's the cause for this? The reason because his heart is the shavik mamish like a stone. That's what tells us to eating treifa. The tmeisem, you defile your soul, but the Gemara says nitamtem, it's like timtum alef. The heart becomes mamish like a piece of a stone, and nothing enters. Now let me, and this is the emestic explanation. That's the emestic reason. Sometimes you can say you can have discussions whether this is with your uncles or with your cousins or with your friends or with your neighbors who are irreligious, and they say there is no God. Then you prove, how can you say such a thing is no God? How illogical, how absurd such a thing is. How did the world come into existence? And you start all kinds about, but how, if you say that this tape recorder, nobody made it. It's completely absurd. Somebody made it. I don't know who made it, but certainly made it. Who made the stars? Who made the sun? Who made the planets? Who made the universe? Who made all this mysterious, the tremendous union from powers? So how can you deny the Eibishter? You can say, what is the Eibishter? There is a question, how should you explain, is the Eibishter omnipotent? But how can you deny, just like you see a child, can you say the child came from nowhere? You know that the child has a source, his father and the mother. It's impossible without a father and a mother to be a child. So Mele, if you see the world, the universe, and all this, how can you say there's no God? Yet you can, some people, be very philosophic, very logical, very smart, very bright, and they can deny the Eibishter. How can you deny such a mitzvah? And you can give them the most logical representations. The teretz is, they lose self-control of themselves, or their own neshama, their own mind. This is the result of treifa. Treifa causes by yid such a pollution, such a contamination in their own neshama, their own heart, that their heart can be sensitive to other things. When you tell them about business, going to this and this, buy this and this stocks, you make a lot of money, you better let them do it because it makes sense to them. You say, buy stocks in religion. Mashiach is soon coming, and eat kosher, you become a mensch, you have a Gan Eden, and so on and so forth. And they remain completely unimpressed, and nothing registers. What's the explanation? This is what the Torah tells us. This is the effect. This is the effect of Kashrus. If God forbid a person doesn't eat kosher, the treifa food, dulls, makes the neshama, the heart, mamish like a stone, like a rock, and water, remember, is always compared to Torah. Ain't mayim elo Torah. Mayim is compared to Torah. Now, just like that's why I use this simile or this analogy, precisely because water is compared to Torah. Pour water over a stone, over a rock, the water doesn't go in. Pour words of Torah into such a heart, which has become contaminated, can become defiled as a result of treifa. The words of Torah, and I see Torah means of logical things, which simply, how can you deny it? How can you reject such a thing? Yet a person remains, like I say, that the neshama, the heart becomes paralyzed, unmoved, nothing goes in. And this is what the Torah says when it makes him, not only that the neshama becomes defiled, but it becomes dull, like a stone, nothing goes in. There's as you know, Rambam, I'd like to give you one more illustration about this. How a person, what's the result of treifa? There are things which a person should logically accept and understand and agree, and once a person is treifa, no reason nor logic, nothing enters a person's mind and a person's neshama and a person's heart. Rambam states the Jewish religion is based upon a person must believe in the 13 principles, the major principles of the Torah, which is called Yud Gimel Ikrim, the cardinal principle of the Jewish religion. And one of them is Tchias HaMeisim. At time Mashiach comes, eventually everybody will arise, everybody will be resurrected, all neshamas, all bodies will be revived, and everybody will become alive again. As a matter of fact, this is the last of the 13 major principles of the Jewish religion. And Rambam says, whoever doesn't believe in Tchias HaMeisim, whoever doesn't believe that eventually the Eibishter is going to revive the dead bodies and send back the neshamas from Gan Eden, does not have a share in the world to come, because this is one of the major principles. Why? He says because the Eibishter has to give rewards for both the neshama and the body. The neshama suffered in this world for Torah mitzvahs, for Yiddishkeit, so the Eibishter gives the reward in Gan Eden. How about the body? Also suffered. The body suffered in the course of its existence here, in this physical world, also a lot. So the Eibishter shouldn't give for this mitzvahs and for the suffering for Torah mitzvahs for the body. So the Eibishter is going to revive the body the bodies, and will be resurrected. And then this is the messianic era when both will partake of this tremendous great bliss and joy, will be both the neshama and body together. And Rambam says whoever doesn't believe in Tchias HaMesim, doesn't believe in reward and punishment, and consequently doesn't believe in God, and certainly he will not have Hashem in the world to come. According to philosophers, they believe in the eternity of the soul, that after the person dies, the neshama doesn't disintegrate, the neshama remains alive forever and ever, because it's part of the Eibishter. This the philosophers also agree. But in the concept of resurrection, this is philosophers deny. They reject this concept altogether. They don't accept this. Because once the form and the matter separates, and the matter disintegrates, anyways, that they have a whole according to Aristotle, according to Socrates. So merely the union of Tchias HaMesim they don't accept. This is a principle which Torah teaches us that eventually, at the end of days, at the end of time, after Mashiach comes, there will be also Tchias HaMesim. And Rambam says this: every Jew must subscribe to this concept, must believe, accept this concept, otherwise he himself loses the share in the world to come. There was a community in Egypt who were Jews, a large community, but they were all very philosophically oriented. They all were philosophers. As they were studying, they were students of philosophy. And since according to philosophy they did not, philosophers, like Aristotle said, does not agree, does not accept the concept of Tchias HaMesim, so all these people also philosophically rejected this idea, and they wrote a letter to Rambam. And they said to Rambam, you are this great rabbi, but you're also this great doctor, and you are also this very great philosopher. Now you tell us that every Jew must believe in Tchias HaMesim, in the resurrection, in the revival of the dead. Now, on religious philosophical principles, we cannot accept it. But you are this great philosopher. If you prove it to us philosophically, so then we'll agree to it, we'll accept it. Otherwise, if you just tell us we should do it, we cannot, because philosophically we cannot accept it, and we are philosophically oriented. We only accept things which we can understand up logic. And since this we cannot understand, so Mele, we cannot, so please, they asked Rambam, the great Moshe Maimonides, he should explain to them philosophically this principle of Tchias HaMesim. Now, I'm aware of what the philosophers say. I also am aware of all the reasons why they say that Tchias HaMesim cannot be accepted. On the other hand, as you know, many times philosophers can tell you all kinds of mises, but simple human understanding, human logic, tells you completely the contrary. Suppose a philosopher would come now and prove it to you, or an astronomer, and prove to you mathematically and astronomically that now it's night. He'll prove it to you the way the sun and the planets and the earth rotate, that now has to be, proves it to you according to the sun, according to astronomy, according to mathematics, the way the world rotates and the sun rotates and this travels. So well, now it's night. And he's such a great mathematician, such a great astronomer, that you can't even begin to discuss with him because he's so much greater than you. But what do you tell him? Whatever he says, it's Narishkeit, nicht Shtus. You just look outside and you can see it's day. He can prove it to you according to mathematics, now it's night. But you know, whatever he tells you, you cannot disprove him logically, because you are not equipped, you are not enough of a scholar in astronomy or in mathematics. But you know, your own senses tell you the opposite. So mainly, notwithstanding what Aristotle and Socrates and all these great philosophers tell you about Tchias HaMesim, there's simply no rhyme and reason, simply human logic. Never mind what they say, these great philosophers. Human logic tells you there is Tchias HaMesim. Why? If the Eibush create the world as the man wants, there any reason the Eibush can't create him twice, the second time? And as the Chazal, the Gemara says it in Sanhedrin, it's so much more beautifully than I can say it. The Gemara says, something which just did not exist, the Eibush can make it should exist. Something which exists already, the Eibush should make it re-exist. It's so much easier. So what the logic? As I said, simple little people can very loudly say whatever Aristotle says, whatever Socrates says, all Bobemaises, because not so. If the Eibush can create the man once, why can't the Eibush create him a second time? Now I can say, why should the Eibush do it? So I said what Rambam says. The Eibush wants to give reward the body also. The body, for example, how many Yidden were sent to Auschwitz? Or even here, the Jews in America. The body sometimes would like to rest and has to go ways to go fast on Yom Kippur. He would like to eat, and the body is very hungry. You fast the whole Yom Kippur. You fast all Tisha B'Av.
So the body also pays a price for the Torah mitzvahs. Should the Eibush reward it? Would it be fair and just? The Eibush should only reward the Neshama not without the body. So Mele the Eibush, there are many other reasons also why for Tchias HaMeisim. But even on a simplest sense, as it says, the Gemara says, was once a blind person and a deaf person. Both had to go a certain place. So the deaf person couldn't walk because he didn't hear there. The blind person heard, but he didn't see. So both together went and both accomplished the task. The same thing also, the neshama itself cannot do the mitzvahs. The body itself cannot do the mitzvahs. Both together can do the mitzvahs. So there would be fair if there are two partners. Each one has an equal share in keeping Shabbos, in eating kosher, in keeping Taras HaMishpach, and so on, all these mitzvahs. The neshama itself cannot do the mitzvah. The body itself cannot do the mitzvah itself. Similarly, if you have here two partners, the Eibush has the reward. So logically, you can say, now, if the Eibush created the world or the body, the human person, the first time, is there any reason that the Eibush cannot create it the second time? So said the Chazal say, if something which did not exist, yesh mind, the Eibush made the first time, so how much more so the Eibush can do it the second time, which is once it existed already. But in any case, so anyways, this community, all these people, rejected, I said only simply because logically there's no reason why a person should not accept the idea from Tchias HaMeisim. It's only because they believed in philosophy. But up in logic, there's no reason why they should believe in philosophy because this completely contradicts this the simple logic in Torah mitzvahs. How should the Rambam, what I explained, is quite simple. Rambam could have certainly explained all this. And Rambam, this great philosopher, could also explain that there is simply no reason why a person should have any difficulty of accepting or understanding the union from the principle of Tchias HaMeisim. I said it's so simple. And let alone this great mind, this great teacher, this great philosopher Rambam. What do you think? What would Rambam? What would you have thought? What was Rambam's reaction? He would have composed a philosophical letter and explained to them the concept of Tchias HaMeisim. But what did Rambam do? Rambam said, he had one of his students, and he said to them, to him, at the beginning, he didn't want to reply to them altogether. Afterwards, he decided he's going to reply, but he doesn't want anything to do with such people. He says he should, and he dictated to them a letter, but he didn't want to write. And he said in his letter, which through his disciple, and he says as follows. He says, the reason you don't believe in Tchias HaMeisim is not because philosophically you cannot accept it. The only reason you don't accept the principle of Tchias HaMeisim because your neshamas became defiled and contaminated and tomeh, the result of eating treifa. And he says, if you would stop eating treifa, do tshuva, and start eating kosher, you'll see what will be. But you won't accept this very logically. And he also gave them that in a certain test. He says, I warn you, it was a time when there was a lot of wars going on between Egypt and other countries, and the Rambam was a very great tzaddik, a big Baruch HaKodesh, and he warned them, he said, all those who will do tshuva and start eating kosher and believe in Torah mitzvahs will be saved. And those who will not will be killed by the enemies of Egypt. And after a few years, the majority of the Jews did tshuva, started to eat kosher, and had no difficulties of accepting afterwards, because I said this simply, I cannot imagine what should be any difficulty, although I know the philosophical rationale and reason why they don't believe in Tchias HaMeisim, but I said it's the same way as someone should tell me now philosophically or astronomically or mathematically, now it's night. I look outside and I see it's the opposite, now it's day. Maybe I'm not such a great astronomer, I won't be able to disprove him astronomically that now it's day, that now it's not night, but now it's day, but I'm 100% sure that what he's telling me, it's all bother myself, because it's day. Same thing also. Tchias HaMeisim, if a person believes in the Eibishter, and those people did not deny the existence of the Eibishter, and did not deny the Eibishter created the world, but they only could not accept the Eibishter recreate the body again. Why not? How much I thought about this for years and years and years, I can never understand what was the difficulty, because it's so simple. It's only the emesis, what Rambam says. A person's neshama becomes defiled as a result of treifa, even logic, even simple reason, also will not register, and you'll just become, the neshama becomes so tumadik, the neshama becomes so klipadik, the neshama becomes so evil, that even anything which is what the Eibishter wants, the neshama can't accept it. And this is what Rambam says. The reason is not because you can't accept it because philosophically there's any difficulties. It's simply because you ate treifa. This is an answer to many, many questions. Sometimes you have all kind of discussions, debates, that either with your parents, with your relatives, with your uncles, cousins, nephews, nieces, or friends, or friends from your college years. And you tell them about the importance of keeping Shabbos, the importance about eating kosher, the importance about keeping Taras Mishpacha. And whatever Torah says is never it should contradict logic. Torah, sometimes you can say we cannot understand it, but it's a very small area which we cannot understand. Most of the things in Torah mitzvahs we can understand. We can very simply understand it, makes sense, it's logical. And sometimes you can say you can have lengthy discussions and debates with such a person, and you see that you can't get through to this person. Nothing enters in that person's mind, nothing enters in that person's neshama. Then you can think there's some weakness in your arguments, there's some weakness in your own, points, proofs, because they are not accepted, because maybe it's not, it doesn't make any sense. Rambam, this great teacher, and this great philosopher, and this great rabbi teaches us our most important lesson. He says many times the problem is not we, or the reasons which we present, it's rather the person is not a keli. It's just like a person is not a keli. Whatever you tell him, you can tell him 2 and 2 is 4. But as long as this 2 and 2 is 4, has an effect of keeping mitzvahs, learning Torah, having a certain spiritual obligation, a person will say, no, 2 and 2 is not 4, 2 and 2 is 5. As long as it's not is disconnected from Torah mitzvahs, unrelated, a person will accept 2 and 2 is 4. But as soon as you tell him 2 and 2 is 4, and consequently you have to keep Shabbos, so you have to eat kosher, you have to eat matzah on Pesach, not chometz, a person suddenly will say it's not true. And his mind will just be in such a way that he simply won't understand this. This is what Rambam says. This is the effect of treifa. Treifa, mamish, the Torah says, nitmeisem, al tikra v'nitmeisem, nitamtem, makes a timtum alef. The heart becomes so dull, like a stone. And this is what Rambam said. The people, in other words, he didn't argue with them at all anything philosophically. He didn't prove them anything philosophically. He only told them, stop eating treifa, and then you won't have any problems about this ma'aseh. The same thing about this inyan of tchias hamesim. Also, sometimes a person says, how can you believe in Eibishter? How can you believe in Torah min hashamayim? Let's say it's a man-made ma'ases. You really think this is the logic speaks out of them? This is the clipper that speaks out of them. This is the inyan of the treifa. It makes a person that he cannot accept all this ma'ases, not because of logic. It makes no sense. Say, we are old-fashioned. We're not up to date. Nothing of the sort. Let these people stop eating treifa, and you see whether their own ideas, their own mind won't change. Yes.
So if you go further, you could say, let's say, like Koreans who have TV and go to movies and read all these dirty books, etc., etc. And you see with all the titles in kosher food, with the, I don't have to speak to anybody, we all know that, you can say kosher, but it's not so kosher, whatever. So this also is why these people can actually bring a television in their house and defile their whole house and books and everything, and yet for shake lessons so they could see people.
You see, now I'm speaking specifically about food. There are two things which have a tremendous adverse effect upon the neshama. One is food, and one is taras mishpacha. Taras mishpacha I'll speak some other time. But now we are limiting ourselves to food. If God forbid a person falls through with food, it consequently brings a whole train of other mices. You can bring the television into the doors, and all the kind of mices, fences, all this. But the beginning is the from food. And just like I said, if God forbid a person doesn't keep Taras Mishpacha, it's not only that you desecrate one or you disobey or transgress one avera, it has a most insidious effect upon the child, upon the mices, and a child will have a lot of difficulties. Not only the child, the parents themselves, it comes avera, every avera is going to this avera. But if Taras Mishpacha is infinitely more so, which we'll discuss some other time. Same thing also with food. Food is not only concerning a person doesn't have mezuzah on the door. Chas v'shalom. A person doesn't put on tefillin. It's a very big avera. But it's a one avera. Food is more than a mezuzah, more than a tefillin, or more than anything else. It contaminates the neshama to such extent that you become completely paralyzed or insensitive to any other mitzvah. And nothing means to you anything. I said, even logic doesn't mean anything to you. That a person can disbelieve in the Eibishter doesn't exist. They can say, how can you say such a thing? If you said a child, would anybody say there's a child came from nowhere? Everybody knows a child must have a source. When you see a bridge, will you say that the bridge came from nowhere? Everybody knows that without any question. How in the world can there be, according to Torah, believing in God is not a uniform belief, it's a logic, it's not even a mitzvah, everybody can see it. You didn't see who made this tape recorder, but I know that somebody made it. It's not that I believe it, I'm sure that somebody made it. I didn't see who made the Empire State Building, but I'm sure that somebody made it. It's not a belief, it's understanding. How come a person can deny the existence of the Eibishter? As I said, I never could understand such a Maisa. As I said, the only explanation what Rambam says, the Neshamas became so defiled, even logic doesn't mean anything to them. Because simply you can say there's no God, how can you say there's no God? So who made the world? How did it come into existence? Nobody will question who made the Brooklyn Bridge. Nobody will question who made the Empire State Building. Nobody will question who made this tape recorder. Why start suddenly saying that the world came into by itself? How? From where? Is the only answer is because it's to Treifer. And this is also by Goyim al-Havdo. Their Mises. And especially through Taras HaMishpach, but not today, we are limiting ourselves to Nifon Treifer. If this wouldn't be, a person would never even have a question, can such a thing be? There is no HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The answer is that many times we have difficulty with a person. Of course, this shouldn't deter us. We should keep on arguing further and further. But the problem is not logic. You just have to break through this clipper, this layer of concrete of clippers, but it's not the logic. What we present is not correct. It's rather the neshama has been overlaid with so much layers of concrete, of stone, of rubble, of schmutz, of clippers. That's why it doesn't enter. And this is the effect of Treifer. So merely here we give an example, and this is based upon what Rambam says. He says he didn't want to explain to them anything about Chias HaMesim. He says the problem is not Chias HaMesim. The problem is not Aristotle. The problem is not Socrates. And the problem is not logic. The problem is simply Treifer. Treifer is like a blinder up a person's eyes, and he doesn't open up his eyes. Open up your eyes, you'll see it. It's not a problem that you have to make a person's eyes should see. They move the blinders, and automatically you'll see. This is also, what are the blinders? Treifer. We are going to elaborate this at great length yet. Yes?
How do you explain that other people, some people's eyes do get the arguments and they
Yes. When I mean for tshuva, we'll discuss this also. How come? It doesn't mean that a person is doomed forever, chas v'shalom. The Rebbe always gives a person a chance by itself. See, the Rabbi also said these people. But anyways, let me give you even a more striking example. How far, and is so far what we discussed from the Rambam, if God forbid a person eats treifer. But emes treifer, just like anything else in Torah, is very relative. Treifer doesn't mean a person has to eat pork, chas v'shalom, or eat treifer meat. But even something which is not 100% kosher can also have this very detrimental effect upon the neshama. And now I'll give you another example how far it can lead, and not outright treifer. Some people can think, you see, almost by Chassidim, this is one of the litmus tests, or one of the criteria, the difference between a chassid and a non-chassid. A chassid will not eat anything unless we know for sure it's kosher. We won't ask the question, how do you know it's treifer? The question should not be asked, how do you know it's treifer? The question is, how do you know it's kosher? Unless you know for sure it's kosher, you don't eat it. But somebody else will be the attitude, how do you know it's treifer? Maybe you look at the ingredients, you don't see anything, it's treifer, so maybe it's kosher. No, we should be 100%, just like, for example, poison. You would say, how do you know it's poison? Maybe it's not poison. You want to know it's 100% it's not poison, not maybe it's not poison. Now let me give you here an example, and something which happened here in New York, in Brooklyn, in Crown Heights, and quite recently in our time. There was a person, and again, don't think this insidious or this terrible effect which treifer, and not only mamish treifer, but it's not mamish kosher. How it can have this effect? You think this can only affect somebody who doesn't keep any mitzvahs whatsoever. But somebody who does mitzvahs or has a good background, had a good upbringing, so that it cannot affect him. Chas v'shalom, it can affect such a person also. There was a certain person who even in his youth used to learn in the Rabbi Yeshiva. Not here in New York, in a different city in Rabbi Yeshiva. Afterwards, his parents moved to New York, and although he learned only in the elementary school, and I think maybe he finished high school, but he didn't learn mamish in the yeshiva, but nevertheless he had a good upbringing. From kindergarten on he learned, and his parents were frum. This person eventually he studied here in Brooklyn College. He got himself a master's in chemical engineering, and he got himself a very, very good job. This person got married, and for a certain reason, he loved his wife very much, and his wife loved him very much, but for a certain reason they had to divorce. So I don't want to go into all these details because I don't think it's necessary. This person became, because he loved his wife very much, just don't want to keep it up. His mother, he was the only child, his mother couldn't get along with his wife, not with her daughter-in-law, and there always fights between them, and he was torn between his two loyalties, between his wife and between his mother, and eventually saw that he cannot reconcile this says he should have moved away, but anyways, and he made a drastic, that's a mistake, because in such a case he should have just followed his wife, but in any case, he divorced his wife. He should have moved away, but anyways, this is the Maisa, and this made him tremendously depressed. Couldn't sleep. I used to listen to a program here. He lived here in Brooklyn, one of the neighborhoods here in Brooklyn, not in Crown Heights, because he wasn't so Lubavitch, his parents also wanted Lubavitch, but they were Shomer Torah mitzvahs. And since he couldn't fall asleep because he was very, very depressed, so he listened to radio late at night. And there was, I don't know if it's still on now or not, there was a missionary program from Reverend Armstrong, which emanates from Los Angeles in California. And he's one of the top, I don't know if he's still around or not. This was raised 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Yes, all right, yes. Anyways, he was a very powerful missionary. And he had these nightly programs for over an hour. I listened to this program until this entered into his mind. And he joined up with such a Christian group. Yoshke for Jews for Yoshke, and after was Christian for Yoshke, all these mices. And he became mamish addicted to it. And he went out daily to their sessions, and he was on the verge mamish of shmadding himself. So at the beginning, while he was only, and Shabbos he went to shul, and when the Rabbi used to give a shir in the Rambam, he used to listen. But he also, because by them, what's the mice? You can be a Jew and you can be a goy. In other words, you can be both. And he was on the verge, shmadding himself. And was already also there was another Goyish girl whom he wanted to marry also, but in a missionary. As long as he only went to this missionary group, his father was very, very upsetting. It goes without saying, but he could still tolerate this. But he saw that within a few days, a few weeks, he's going to convert to Christianity, and especially marry the shiksa also. Here, his father just couldn't take it. He got a heart attack. Came out from the hospital, he wrote a letter to the Rabbi. And asked the Rabbi should save his son. Eventually this Maisa came to me. I should discuss and with this Bacher and bring him back to Yiddishkeit. So he made an appointment, he called me up, and used to come to me at the beginning once a week, afterwards twice a week. So he used to come, he brought all these booklets and books and pamphlets and all these brochures, a whole valises, mamish, with their proofs that Yashka is God, Yashka is the Messiah, Yashka is das, and proofs from Chumash, and proofs from Tilim, and proofs from Daniel, and proofs from Isaiah, from all over. And not that I should convince him, he wanted to convince me. And we had all kind of discussions. So he says I should take this book and all this proof that Yashka existed, that Yashka is the Messiah, that Yashka is the Redeemer. I said, I will not look in any of these books, because it says that a person should keep these books in his house, they should even read these books, because it's metamed the nefesh of a person. Well, just reading these books is also metamed the nefesh. So I said, on the other hand, don't think that I'm afraid of them, that's why I don't want to read them. You read it to me, I'll listen, and then we'll discuss it. In other words, I'll listen to everything what you read, but I myself, my eyes will not become defiled by reading any of these books. So every time he brought mamish valises, and proofs from here, proofs from there. And we went step by step. We started with Breshis. Then we started all these other proofs. For example, Breshis about Elikim. So the first proof is Elikim. Elikim is in plural. Yes, Elikim. That's Elikim. The very name Elikim is in plural. Gods. So you see, the gods created. There's more than one God. You see, this is about the day. I mean, the Father, the Son, the Holy Shmendrik. So anyways, they have those. So Elikim. And then he says many times, I mean, all these proofs one after the other. Then you have Shema Yisrael Hashem Hashem Echad. You have Shema Yisrael, the holiest posik, if you can call it. Everything is holy. But if a Yid says 3 times a day, at least 3 times a day, Shema Yisrael Hashem Hashem Echad. How many names do you have in Shema Yisrael? 3 names. Hashem, Elokeinu, Hashem. Why you have to say 3 times the name? Again, the Holy Father, and so on. Ismail brought proofs after proofs, all these mices. And we discussed it. And I said, no, is this proof anything? He said, no, all right, let's move on to the next one. And so after we discussed it, but he had to accept it, that whatever they say, it has a completely different meaning. If you would know what Elokim means, Elokim, why is it in plural? Because the word Kel means in Hebrew, the power. God is all-powerful, omnipotent. So the Eibishter is the source of all powers, and this is the Kel means power. Elokim is the plural of power. But the Eibishter is the source of all these powers, it's omnipotent. So that's why it says Elokim. It has nothing to do with 3 gods. And I mean, I showed him what Kel means. Anyways, we went step by step until we went through the whole Tanakh and all these mices. Then I asked him, this took at least, I don't remember exactly, 3 months, 4 months, but quite a while, because you go from one proof, another proof, and so then he tells me, Rabbi Mangel, the reason that I cannot disprove you because you are too smart for me. But if you would discuss it with my priest, and this man says he will be able to disprove you, refute you. I say, all right. You can bring him down here to my office. You priest, you cardinal, anybody can bring. I will not go to them. I'm not going to a church. I won't go to all these places. But if he wants to come here, everybody's welcome. So, all right. So we made it up. The next week he'll invite the Galach. The Galach who teaches him all these mices. But you think the Galach wanted to come? If any Galach who has a little bit of seichel, he knows the ganze mice of the Christians is all Baba mice, absolutely bunk. There's there's a grain of truth in it. It's all Baba mice. You can tell, I mean, for lost neshamas, a person, yes, is depressed, is mishugad, but there, you think the Pope believes in all this mishugas, and the Cardinal believes in all this mishugas? No, it's also a business. But anyways, he of course didn't come. Then he says, he didn't come, so he says, so I tell him, you know what? So he tells me, but they don't want to come, but how about this Reverend Armstrong? He told us, he came a refugee. I said, all right. If you want, bring him down. So anyways, this Armstrong wrote to me a few letters. And I responded. And I told him, no, let's see what he writes. And I showed him what I wrote. He sees there's mamish, absolutely nothing in the whole dogmas and all the religion. So then I tell him like this. The Galachim, we went through the whole Tanakh, and there's no proof for the existence of Yashke. Yashke is one Yiddish boy who just went astray. And he claimed just like somebody says, I'm Napoleon, and someone says, I'm Caesar. So he said, I'm God, but nothing more. He's a charlatan. So I'm tell you, there's no proof. The Galach didn't want to come down. Armstrong, you saw the exchange of letters. So Mele, I tell him, now, is there anything else which still bothers you about Yiddishkeit? He says, no. Are you convinced? Yes. So if that's the case, you don't have to study anymore. But take all your books, all this. We had loads of mamish releases about all these missionary works. I tell him to take all these works and throw it away. Because remember, I didn't want to look into them. Why? Because it's metama Yiddish and neshama. So merely just having such a books in your home is also is very bad. Don't bring too many to your house. Throw them away. So he promised me. And what do you think? He lived up in Flatbush in a big apartment house. And he took all these books, and it was an incinerator. They dumped all these books into the incinerator. But his father was overjoyed that everything is okay already. He left his shiksa. He's going to leave the shiksa. And he doesn't believe anymore in this Baba Mice of Christianity. And he comes back to Yiddishkeit. So he watched as he throws down the books into the incinerator, but he noticed that as he was dumping down the books in the incinerator, tears came rolling down his cheek. He was crying. And mind you, he was a married person. Obviously, he was late 20s, early 30s. He's an engineer. I mean, not a nar. And yet, when he was throwing away these books, he was crying. So, and his father knew already that I told him that we terminated her. He doesn't have to come anymore because there's nothing else what I can do, what I should do. He's already convinced. So he calls me up and says, Rabbi Mangel, he did indeed do what you asked him to do, but I noticed that he was crying b'shas ma'aseh. So then I saw that something goes on. If he was crying, so there's something bothers him. So I told him, tell your son should come to me next Thursday. He comes to next Thursday. And I wasn't supposed to know that he was crying, so I tell him how this and this and this, until he tells me, he threw it away. But he says, how was it? Are you happy? So he tells me, no. He says, Rabbi Mangel, my heart wasn't there. On the contrary, I was very, very upset and was crying. B'shas I threw all these books away into the fire. He says, why? He says, I don't know why. Logically, I'm with you. But my heart tells me differently. My heart is still there in Christianity. As logic, you are right. But my heart still tells me that pulls me to Christianity. Here I didn't know what to do. As long as the question was logic and a discussion, reason, so I can tell him, he brings me this proof, so I tell him why this proof is wrong. But he tells me he accepts logically 100% what I'm telling him. And he accepts 30 meters 100%. Except there's only with his heart still pulls him to Christianity. So here I didn't know, I was at loss what to do. So I wrote it to the Rebbe. I write to the Rebbe, this in this case which you gave me, this was your case which they wrote to you. And I discussed with him the last 3 or 6 months that I had with him all these discussions. And Baruch Hashem, logically he's persuaded, he understands, he's convinced there's only Moshe Emes, the Tros Emes, all this Trinity, all this Christianity is absolutely Bobemaises. But he's attached to it emotionally. What can I do about this? That's what I asked the Rebbe. What do you think? What did the Rebbe answer me? The Rebbe said, I should check up whether he eats kosher milk and dairy products. This was the Rebbe's answer. The Rebbe didn't give me anything what else I should reason with him, which I should discuss with him, which I should enlighten him. The Rebbe said I should check out whether he has Chol of Israel. That's what the Rebbe said, whether they use in his house. See, once he divorced his wife, he moved back to his parents' house. And so the Rebbe said I should check up whether his parents and he uses Chol of Israel. Chol of Akut Goishe, just plain milk, is also not treifer. Now they see it in America. I don't think there's any chash, there's any fee they can mix in swine milk or different from donkey milks. But nevertheless, ye did not see it. So it's called not Chol of Israel. So even Chol of Israel, so that's what the Rebbe told me. I should check up whether this person uses Chol of Israel and his dairy products are only Chol of Israel. I did not know because I was very much shocked. His parents ostensibly are Shomer Torah mitzvahs. So I thought, surely they use Chol of Israel. And I should ask them, for example, I should ask you, do you eat kosher? I mean, it would be an embarrassing question. But anyways, I did eventually ask. I didn't know what to go about this. I shouldn't offend them. But after that I thought, his father has this problem with his son. And I inquired by the Rebbe, by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And this is what the Rebbe answered me. So I told him openly, I asked the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and this is what the Rebbe said, I should inquire whether you have your home Chol of Israel. So this person started to stutter over the phone. He was himself very much ashamed and embarrassed. He says, Rabbi Mangel, as long as I was living in Williamsburg, of course I had only Chol of Israel, but now I moved to a neighborhood in Flatbush. In those days it was a completely a non-Jewish neighborhood, and there was no Jewish groceries, and didn't have any Jewish products. So mainly they stopped. This is the only remedy how can save your son. So he promised me that he's going to, he was sick because he had a heart attack, but nevertheless he's going to go to Williamsburg, wherever, and he's going to bring every day only Chol of Israel, and Chol of cheese, Chol of Israel, and butter Chol of Israel. And I didn't have anything to do with this. His son, he said, that's what the Rebbe told him. That the remedy is not anymore discussions, debates, but simply only to change your menu. Change your what you bring home. And 6 months later, he sent me an invitation to a chasana. Not only he sent away the shiksa, but he got to know a very fine girl from Beis Yankov, and he invited me to the chasana. Here you can see sometimes parents ask the question, how come the child went away from Yiddishkeit, got such an excellent upbringing, or have different problems. This is what the Rebbe says. Not only, God forbid, a person eats treifa, but even Cholav Yisrael, the importance of Cholav Yisrael. Yimritz Hashem, next week we'll also discuss, so far we discussed always in a negative sense, but let me just tell you one more story. We'll start with this because I also like to learn a little bit of Tanya. And in Hashem, next week we'll also discuss the positive, that how much it can benefit the neshama kosher food, just like how it can be detrimental or dangerous, what it can do, how it can contaminate, but how it can also improve and strengthen the Yiddish neshama kosher food. But this we'll discuss next week. But let me just finish off at least in this negative sense. There's once a big Rebbe, who was a Chaver of the Alt Rebbe, his name was Rabbi Schnobler. And Rabbi Schnobler, he would, every morning, he would be up a whole night, and the morning before he goes to daven, the Gabbai would bring him in a glass of milk. And just to give him a little bit strength, because he was up a whole night. So one morning, the Gabbai brings him in that a saucer with a glass of milk, and they knew already as soon as they bring in the milk, he finishes the glass of milk, and then he comes out to daven in the Beis Medrash. Here, this would be the routine always. Gabbai, when he sees already the Beis Medrash was filled with people, the Chassidim to daven, so they would bring him in a glass of milk, and this would be also the sign for the Rebbe that the minyan is ready. So then he would go into the Beis Medrash to daven. He brought in a glass of milk, and they were waiting for a long time, and the Rebbe did not come out. So the Gabbai came in because it's not an Indian to make people who have to go to work, to make them wait so long. So the Gabbai just came in to see what goes on with the Rebbe. How come he didn't come? Usually he would come out immediately after the milk. So the Rebbe also saw it's a little late. So he asked the Gabbai, why did you bring in a glass of milk? So the Rebbe, here on your desk, on the table in front of you, there's the glass of milk. And the Rebbe says, I don't see it. And he said again and again, he says, the Rebbe, it's in front of you. Like, for example, here I have in front of me the pile of Tanyas. I would say, I don't see it. So the Rebbe said, the Rabbi Shalom said, I don't see the glass of milk. And the Gabbai kept on insisting, there is the glass of milk. So he realized, since the Rebbe doesn't see it, after several times telling the glass of milk is in front of him, there must be something wrong with this milk. He took out this glass of milk. Of course, the Rebbe didn't drink it. And he tried to investigate what happened with this milk that the Rebbe doesn't see it. So he found out, usually, there would be one chassid who would get up middle of the night, go out to the farmer, and watch while the farmer milks a whole container, a whole barrel of milk for the household of the Rebbe. So the chassid would be there. One night it was very cold, it was a wintry night, and the chassid went to sleep very late, and overslept, and he didn't get up, and didn't go to the farmer middle of the night to watch as the farmer milks the milk. The farmer saw the Yid doesn't come, so he milked it himself, and he brought a whole barrel of milk to the Rebbe. But this was a milk, a goyish milk, which a Yid didn't see. So Mele, the Schnobler, since it's not Cholav Yisrael, a Yid wasn't present there, so the Schnobler was such a great tzaddik, the kosher, that his world, anything which wasn't 101% kosher, did not exist, he didn't see it. So they came to the Schnobler and said that you made a big mess, that you didn't see the milk which was not a Cholav Yisrael. So the Gemara says, so the Schnobler says not a mess. It's a simple Gemara. So the Gemara says, as cholav aktu, a milk, which a Yid wasn't present, if a Yid didn't see it, so and the words permit two readings, two interpretations. Not if a Yid doesn't see it, a Yid doesn't see it, a goyish milk, which a goy milk, a Yid wasn't present, not if a Yid didn't see it, because the Hebrew words permit both readings. A Yid doesn't see it. The emissary Yid did not see it. But anyways, this is already a very high madrega. But at least what we see, important, some people think, yes, there is the Young Israel type of Jews, Mizrahi type of Jews, there is different type of Jews, use Cholav Akut, don't use Cholav Israel. But also see their mice of husbands, what with their children, when they go to colleges, what happens with their Yiddishkeit. So Mele, here we see what the Rebbe said, this mice happened only because his parents didn't feed him Cholav Israel. As soon as it was changed, this might also change. So we see here again the mindset. A person believes in Christianity. You can think it's because of his logic. You think because of reasons, because of any proofs. Because the Neshama became defiled. That's what we began our discussion. The Neshama became defiled, and consequently he can accept and believe in every nonsense. And that not always the reason is because he doesn't understand, or the reason we cannot influence him because our explanations, our discussions, our points are not strong enough, simply because the Neshama became paralyzed. The Neshama became so contaminated that nothing enters. Alright, in Mr. Hashem next week, we also discuss the positive things a person eats kosher, just like how the detrimental effect, how much is the beneficial effect, and then we also explain why